For more, we're joined by Eric Mandel, founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with this latest round of escalations. The U.S. using heavy airstrikes to try to force Iran into signing a deal. A lot of strong rhetoric coming out of Washington. But historically, does this kind of military pressure bring the IRGC to the table? Or does it solidify their resolve and empower the hardliners? And how will that affect the chances of a deal?
So let's cut through all the bluster and brinkmanship and ask, are we truly entering a new phase of the battle, negotiating by, we'll say, intense kinetic diplomacy, one where America will finally begin to dictate the terms to Iran? The Wall Street Journal today had an editorial that was critical of the president, saying that during this 9-week ceasefire, Iran has been dictating the terms. Iran starts and decides when to end each skirmish. After each attack, the president races to de-escalate. So we need to ask, are these new U.S. strikes and threats another one and done? Or are we ready to restart these high-level war?
Right.
I think, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I just said, right. I mean, Trump has made it clear especially during this latest 24-hour flare-up between Israel and Iran, that he wanted the sides to de-escalate, as you mentioned. He doesn't want a war, and Iran knows it. So how does this affect the standing at the negotiating table?
So yesterday's announcement, I think one of the keys of yesterday's announcement was that the president said that we were secretly facilitating shipping through the straits, a return, if you will, to Operation Freedom. And this is another opportunity for Trump to dictate the terms to Iran. So with Iran as the president playing us for suckers, it really is time once and for all for the president to order American forces to control the Strait of Hormuz. If we do that, use this opportunity to do that, we would take away Iran's most effective negotiating leverage in negotiations, and that means the playing field here.
All right, and what is the U.S. military's actual exit strategy if a deal is not signed, if Iran keeps pushing back?
I tell you, in war, when you say the first thing is we need to find our exit strategy, you're already on the losing side. What the president needs to do really is to, at this critical point, to go tell the American people what's going on. Why are we still here? Why are you paying high gas prices? How do we determine what success is? Obviously, that would lead into an exit strategy, but also what failure would mean. What does it mean for creating the possibility of an Indo-Pacific war? Because the Chinese are watching the Straits of Hormuz, whether they should close the Straits of Taiwan and the Straits of Maluka and things like that. So ultimately, the president, if at this point, the best he can do is open up the Straits of Hormuz. But ultimately, he needs to embrace the idea of regime change and create no-fly zones and empower the opposition. And if the president wants to change the Middle East for the better and ensure his legacy, that's the path that he really needs to go on. But the first step here should be opening the straits, taking that leverage away from the Iranians.
Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Well, it depends upon which voices the president's listening to. The president also by his own gut. I think there are people telling him. I know that Marco Rubio's office, Marco Rubio in particular, understands this issue in depth. He did as a senator, but the president is hearing lots of voices who are talking politically, using the danger of politics, running our tactics and strategy as we get to midterm elections and other things that are happening. And that's a bad thing. The president has said sometimes the right thing, saying, I don't care about the midterms, but he obviously does. Really depends on what voices he's doing. But I do feel confident that if we reopen the Straits of Hormuz and change the negotiating playing field, we would be in a much better position.
All right. Eric Mandel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And in the studio with me is